The Business of Art, brought to you by the Video Department.
I find it so strange that we are videoing podcasts nowadays.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just want to listen. Now I have to watch it again. Like, I listen to podcasts so I don't have to watch the thing. Anyway.
This is all going on the pod. Welcome to The Business of Art.
Oh, no.
We are here with Juliette Oliva. Juliette Oliva. Sorry, I should know that. That's two podcasts in a row, basically, that I've butchered the last name of my guest.
It's a different last name.
Yeah.
But at least it sounds okay when people butcher it.
We are in the same BNI networking group, but that is not exactly how we met, though we certainly met through BNI.
Okay, I'm like, wait, how did we meet? Yeah, I thought we met through BNI.
Well, you were in a different group before you joined ours, but when we first met. Mm-hmm. Which group were you in?
I was in 212.
212.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you were in 212. What was the name of that one?
I don't remember the name of the team I was on, to be honest.
LOL. So...
Yeah.
But long story short, you eventually joined the same networking group that the video department is in, BNI All-Stars. And we have worked together several times since then.
Yep.
So welcome to the pod.
Thanks.
Let's start with your background and how you got into the arts in general. You can go back as early as you want.
Oh my gosh. Oh. Well, I guess I was always good at drawing as a kid. I used to make comic strips, and that was how we would pass notes at school. We would pass notes in comic strip form. So I would draw a panel and I'd pass it to my friend Sarah, and she would draw a panel and pass it back, and we would just do this back and forth. And it turned into like just epic note passing at school. There are stacks and stacks and stacks of notebook paper that are just covered in these cartoons that we created.
What grade are we talking here?
The comic strip, Cartoony Land is what we called it. Like the specific drawing style was 7th grade.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What was the style? Like, who was your influence?
I don't know. It just kind of came out. It just happened. But the eyes were kind of parentheses almost, like parentheses for eyes, little dots. And they evolved over the years, but it started as just like little parentheses with dots for eyes.
Okay. Did you have any like comics that inspired you? Like, I was a big Garfield fan. Even though a lot of people like hate on Garfield now.
I liked reading Garfield in the Sunday comics.
Yeah.
Like, that was always fun.
That was funny. Lasagna. It was so like, why does he like lasagna so much? But it made me like lasagna.
It made me hate Mondays. But yeah, Calvin and Hobbes was a big one that I enjoyed a lot.
That makes sense.
I was obsessed with those, and the Far Side as well. We had like tons of those anthology books of like all the Calvin and Hobbes collections and all the Far Side collections, and I would just sit and pour through those and read them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so and I'm assuming
so that's kind of the beginning.
And that's on, let's just sort of get into it. That's on pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Pen and paper.
That's like pre-digital anything at that point.
Yeah, so I was good at drawing. I went to college, started with a business and psychology degree because I thought these things will be useful for me. But they were really boring. 100 level classes are bound to be boring, so I should have thought about that. But I changed my major about 5 more times. And eventually I ended up transferring colleges to Portland State University from University of Oregon. Because I wasn't a fan of living in Eugene, Oregon. It's just like this little smelly hippie town, and there's not a lot to do. It was a very boring place at the time. Okay. So I transferred to Portland State with my friend Sarah, who co-creator of Cartoony Land, longtime friends, and I was filling out the paperwork for this school and, list of all the majors, like, please declare your major. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I need to stick to something now. This is it. I'm running out of time and money. Like, whatever I circle on this page is going to be, like, the degree. And I saw graphic design, and I thought, oh, that sounds like art on the computer. Well, I can draw. I've always been very creative and artistic, so I went with that. And I was very confused for the first probably 6 months of that degree program.
Why?
I didn't really understand or know what graphic design was. I kind of just jumped into it without having any like background knowledge of it. I just, it sounds like we're making stuff on the computer now. Okay, I like visual things. Like, let's do that. So. And
was it not that?
It is, but there's so much more. There's so much more. Yeah, like one of our first assignments was to design a magazine spread with an ampersand. That was basically the only direction we had. Design a magazine spread, include an ampersand.
Why can't I think of what an ampersand is?
It's the and symbol. Yeah.
Okay.
So I
That's
mean,
cool.
but like that's so open ended,
Yeah.
and as like a brand new student, I'm like, I don't. What? Like, what's a magazine? What needs to be? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so confusing.
Yeah,
But once it clicked, it
interesting.
kind of like clicked, and then it turned out to be probably the best thing ever.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's so funny because like people's brains work so differently. You know, like I mean, this is a much bigger conversation, but like, how do you teach
Yeah.
a group of 20 students who may have 15 or 20 different learning styles?
Yeah, I actually, a friend of mine, I knew him from Eugene and University of Oregon, and we met ballroom dancing, but he was an architecture major, and he recently went back to school to get a graphic design degree, and so he was asking me, for tips and things, and I'm like, what are they teaching you exactly in your classes? And there's some things I felt were missing, and I got on my high horse, about it, and he's like, well, why don't like you give me some lessons and learning? So I'm like, all right, we'll hop on a call like every Friday, and I'll give you homework, and I'll help you kind of figure it out so you can maybe like enhance what you're getting at school. And so yeah, trying to figure out how to teach that. Like I came up with a lesson plan, and I had all of these different like columns in my spreadsheet about like, here's the topic, here's like the background reading, here's the assignment, here's what I'm grading it on, but yeah, how I'm evaluating things. And it's a lot. Teaching is
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a beast, especially with art.
Yeah. It's it's by its nature, it's very subjective.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing, though. Like, as soon as I said art, I'm like, but design is an art. It's a type of, it's an art, but it's not art.
Why?
In the same way. So art is really, like, when you go to a museum, you see a painting, like, you're seeing, like, it's the expression of the artist, and every single person who looks at that painting is going to have a different experience of the work, right? Design is not meant to be that subjective. It's meant to give everyone a more shared experience around the same piece of work. So it's not really about the artist's feelings or anything at all. It's not about self-expression. It's about like making sure the message is getting across in a clear way that makes sense. And graphic design plays on a lot of psychological principles and things. So yeah, there's just a lot going on in there. And
that's definitely going to clip that. That was great. But do you think, are there ever times where you're designing something and you feel like it is living in both worlds, design and art?
Oh yeah, especially with branding design and logos. We have a whole process for that, and I've kind of dragged it out into like different steps to bring the person who I'm branding along with me on the journey on the creative side of it.
Right.
Because it is just as much theirs. It's a big part of them and what they're building.
Right.
So like, when they feel like they've had a part and played a role in its inception and creation, they tend to fall in love with it a lot more.
Sure.
So part of the process, we'll do like concepts, and then we'll start ideating on like the logo itself, but we start like kind of zoomed out a bit more with just like vague general concepts that could express the thing that we're trying to express. So I think, when you get into the sketching stage and the kind of the ideating, like that's when I feel like it gets really creative, and it's sort of, it's a fine line between art and like problem solving.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, definitely a lot of what I do, I feel like, is problem solving as well.
Absolutely.
Let's not jump ahead too much. You kind of jumped from middle school to college. What was happening with you in high school?
I was in music. I did a lot of music and some theater in high school. So
Okay.
I was still passing the notes though. All those cartoons, they
Yeah.
were like, we would create stories and narratives.
With Sarah?
With Sarah and a couple other friends of ours, like we had like whole background stories for all of us in cartoony land. And
Okay. So you were like characters in Cartoony Land?
Yeah. It was really silly. I still have like the very first one we ever drew.
Very funny.
Hung on to it. It's on this
very
teeny
cute.
sheet of graph paper.
Well, I have aspirations of having like a children's show one day, so maybe Cartoony Land will make another appearance in the public,
I would love that.
and we'll like share the original.
I've been thinking about reviving like a web comic of some kind, because I did have a web comic in college as well, but thankfully it's nowhere to be found on the internet anymore. Whew. But because man, that was embarrassing. But yeah, I've been wanting to like revive the comics and the graphic designy novelty
Yeah,
type thing.
I feel like especially with like AI tools and stuff like that, it'd be very easy to
Oh yeah, I guess yeah.
not necessarily fully animate it, even though that certainly would be possible. I don't know enough about that.
But you could do like frames
Exactly.
and have it fill in kind of the fill in the blanks
and have AI generated voiceover and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And,
that would be very
I mean,
cool.
it'll do all of that for you.
Yeah, I was thinking about AI today as I was working on a project.
Uh-oh. Do we need to silence that?
That's yours, I think, not mine. Mine's already on silent.
So yeah, we do need to silence that then.
Cool. I forgot what I was saying.
Talking about Cartoon Land and
AI, yeah. So
AI.
we have a client. They have a group photo of their team. The team has changed since the photo was taken, and they just have 2 individual photos of a couple other people who have joined the team. They're like, "Can you Photoshop these 2 people into the group photo?" Well, that's going to be really hard because it's only a partial photo of like this person. I don't have a full body, and all the group photo is a full body shot. And I thought, man, AI would be perfect for filling this in and just kind of getting the depth correct and the size scaling and everything. I just did it myself, but it was annoying.
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, but we got it. Good enough.
Yeah, that sounds super tense.
Yeah.
What instrument did you play in college?
I played the clarinet and the piano. I still play the piano, but I was the clarinet band geek.
What like skill level would you consider yourself at piano?
Intermediate, I guess.
Like what can you like play? Could you play like a Billy Joel tune or that
if I had some time with the sheet music. Yeah, I can sight read okay. I got pretty good at sight reading because I never wanted to practice in high school, so I would just sight read once a week at my lessons. But later in high school, I got way more into it, and I still play. Did a lot of classical music and then a lot of like random musicals, like, I want to play The Lion King or, blah, blah, blah. And then for like these yearly recitals we would do, one year I did like Bohemian Rhapsody, which was really awesome. That was a lot of fun.
That's tough,
yeah. And but Mozart and Beethoven are my favorite to play on the piano. So
do you sing too?
Not in public.
No musicals?
Not in public.
Are there musicals that are not in public? So you didn't do musicals in high school?
I did, but I was always like a chorus girl.
Sure.
So.
Well, we just talked about you were going to audition for something.
I tried to. Yeah, I know.
You were like, I'm going to audition for that.
Yes, no. I can't because I'm shy. But also, like, I don't want to subject other people to my voice. Singing on a podcast. Here we are. Here's my voice.
Well, we should do karaoke. I mean, that's like a safe
There is
way
not
to
enough
go.
alcohol in the world.
No, you don't do karaoke?
Not in public. I mean, like, house party, sure, but like
Okay,
not at a never.
You keep saying these things not in public, and I'm like, they don't exist outside of public, but a house party is
house party would be fine, yeah.
Still public, I would say.
Most of my singing happens in the car.
Sure, that's the singing. The car and the shower are the 2 places where I think the most singing happens in the world.
And I'm like, I sing it in the car. Yeah, I'm all over.
I hope I pull
amazing.
up next to you one day and get to see some like just like
Hamilton will be
neck
playing. I'll be
stretching,
like rapping along with Lafayette.
Yeah, what is like the number 1 or 2 things that you sing to? Is Hamilton one?
I like Hamilton a lot. It's a lot of fun because I know like pretty much every word of the first act. Second act is less interesting to me, so I don't have it all memorized. But yeah, a lot of just like radio music and things. But
okay. Do you have any favorite bands?
Oh gosh. Well, I guess the Decemberists, their favorite. Yeah.
The Hazards of Love is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yes, that's the most beautiful, and I love the language they use in that. Like they crafted it with a lot of like old words, old language, old English.
I was briefly in development on a stage show with some people. Definitely is still like a. Could happen. So cool. It definitely could happen.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful.
Apparently, story. Like, because I talked to a friend of mine used to work for their management company.
Really?
And I asked him about it, and he said at the time he was like, they no joke probably get 5 new ideas sent to them a day to adapt The Hazards of Love into something.
Interesting.
And at one point, there was a whole bunch of buzz about a Broadway adaptation of The Hazards of Love.
Now that would be very nice.
I don't think it ever happened, though.
No, I don't think it did.
We would have heard of it if
I get their newsletter. They've never announced that one.
But there were definitely articles about a Broadway adaptation of The Hazards of Love. I will tell you off camera about what my idea is. I don't want to give it away too much, but...
I'm excited about that.
So... let's go from college then. What was your first job out of college that was design related?
The first job that I got out of college was design related. So it was this company called Loti, Loti. Luck of the Irish is what that stood for. And they were all crazy Irish people, but they were from Texas.
Okay. I had to piece that one together. Okay, very interesting.
Luck of the Irish. Loti. And they manufactured edge molding for laminate countertops. Super sexy and exciting product, right? And the owner didn't really want to take professional photos of the product usually. So he bought a nice camera and let me take pictures of like the edge molding like in the factory, because it was an office factory all in one building. And that's when I got really good at Photoshop, because I would Photoshop these edge molding into like stock photography kitchens, basically like a laminate countertop in a kitchen, and then like, you know, Photoshop this stupid thing in there. So, but when I got there, you know, their branding was really awful and ugly and dated. And that was like the first thing that I said to my boss. I'm like, we got to rebrand. Like, I want to do a logo. You know, I was like just ready to hit the ground running and just so full of like, you know. And he got really excited about it too. So we did a rebranding. Like I did the logo and everything. I did designed and built their website, which is probably maybe the second or third website I had ever built or designed. And because that was early 2000s. So
what were you using?
Dreamweaver and Photoshop. Dreamweaver and Photoshop, which I did not like.
Does Dreamweaver still exist?
It does still exist.
But you're not using it.
I don't like it. There's way better code editors now. Yeah, I don't love that program.
Okay.
But and Photoshop. So we'd like design it in Photoshop, and then you'd like slice your images and like reassemble them in Dreamweaver, which I just couldn't wrap my head around. So I would just build it in the code instead of creating the image and then dropping that in. I would create the image like with the code, or at least the background and kind of some pieces of it, and then I would drop like a transparent image over the top or whatever you need to do. But the way we were taught to build them at school didn't make any sense to me. I didn't like Dreamweaver, so I just straight up learned HTML and CSS. So the first job was for Lodi. I worked there for about 2 or 3 years, and then I ended up moving out to Richmond. And I was the in-house graphic designer and marketing liaison for La Différence, the furniture.
Yeah, in Richmond.
Modern furniture store.
Yeah. Okay. Was Lodi in Richmond?
No, Lodi was in Oregon.
What brought you to Richmond?
So I had friends that I worked with like in college, all my retail hell jobs, who were from Richmond originally, and they were moving back. They finished school. They were only in Oregon to finish like college. So they were moving back, and they were like, hey, you should come with us. So I said, okay.
Cool. Yeah. Why not?
I was 25. I was like, I might as well. If I don't go now, I never will. I'll never leave.
Time to go.
So.
And was your first job in Richmond La Différence?
Yeah. I found the job the summer before I moved out there. They flew me out here for a couple days to like check out the city and like make sure I really was going to move here, because I'd never even been to Richmond before when I was like, I'm doing it. So, and just to show me around the store and everything. And worked there for about three years or so.
Is it still around?
I believe it is. They've moved to Manchester though. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I know. Yeah, they had a very prominent building.
I'll tell you off camera what my nickname for them is.
Okay, I love that. I love a good off-camera nickname.
I'm like, I don't know who's gonna hear this, so I don't want to be rude, but I have thoughts and feelings about that one. But
great.
I did learn a lot. I think I grew a lot there as a designer, because they eventually, like, once I kind of found my legs there working on their brand, they would let me give me a little more creative freedom to kind of step out of the box and try different things. So I think that was a really nice period of growth.
What was after that?
Southern States Cooperative. So I was their in-house designer, and I designed their 2011 iteration of their website. Full design, massive amount of pages and e-commerce and everything. So and like it was a very different brand back then. And they had a very specific brand guide. It was a lot more rustic, a lot of burlap sacks and things, textures in the design.
I love it.
Yeah, it was a textured design. a lot of that in it, but. So I worked for them for a few years, moved on to another company called Boxwood, which is a capital investing company, and they had maybe 8-10 different websites, e-commerce websites that they ran, and so I would work on those and optimize them for search. And that was where I met Louise, my now business partner. So it was her first job out of college, there, and she was sort of administrative assisting at the time and also doing social media and things for them for their many website businesses. So yeah.
Oh, well, that's a great transition, because one of the things I was going to ask you about is what is it like running a business with a partner? So did you two create Pixel Strike together?
Actually, we didn't. I created Pixel Strike with someone else named Joe Baker, and he and I worked together at Capital One. I was only at Boxford.
We skipped Capital One.
I know. I was only at Boxford for about a year, and then it was just getting weird, and I just didn't love being there. And Louise left after about a year as well, because it was definitely not a good fit for her. Her boss, we had different bosses. Her boss was not the kindest person in the world. Mine was cool, but so after a year, I got to Capital One. I sat next to Joe. I sat next to him for about 3 months and never said a word to him because I'm shy. And then one day he turns around and says, "You ever going to talk to me?" I said, "Oh, okay. Hi. Hello." So we started chatting. He was the developer of their .com site at the time. So I had freelance projects that I've always kind of had on the side to just keep things interesting. Because when you work in-house for a company and you're only working with one brand, one set of guidelines, one set of visual kind of, style. And so I was just freelance to keep it interesting and like just try different projects and things. So I had a website. I asked Joe, I said, "I need a developer for this. Can you build on WordPress?" And he said, "Sure." So we started building websites together. My taxes were getting confusing and complicated, and my spreadsheets were getting out of control. And I said, "Joe, I think we need to make this like a LLC. We need to take this above board." He's like, "Yeah, let's do that. Let's make a company." I'm like, "Yeah, let's make a company. All right, yeah, sure, we'll do it together." So we did. We just hopped on board and went to the business office. Henrico County. Got our business license and everything. Did a bunch of name ideation, which was annoying. And then it's been just kind of running the business ever since. We hired Louise about a year in, and she just worked her ass off. Like it was as much her baby as it was ours. Like she acted and worked it was just as much a part of it, and she was. But that can't go unnoticed or unrewarded, in my opinion. So we gave her part ownership. A few years later, Joe moved to Washington State, and he's more of a silent partner now. So Louise and I are majority owners, but Joe's we talk to him once a quarter on our little quarterly owners meetings, but running it with Louise is a dream. It's amazing, to answer that question.
Yeah. I guess it's lucky that you had two good partners.
Yeah, and I didn't know Joe that well when we signed up to basically essentially marry each other, business wise. So
and did you...
I lucked out.
Have you we don't need to get into the weeds here, but have you talked with Brandy Brown about your partnership agreement?
Oh, we had it. Yeah, we've not with Brandy about our operating agreement, but we have talked to our lawyer about that. Yeah, and he was like, some of this isn't written quite right. Yeah. You guys, we need to fix this right now. Okay, so we got that sorted out a few years ago. All of our agreements.
I only know because she talks about it all the time.
Yeah.
Shout out Brandy Brown.
Brandy Brown. She's helping me trademark it right now.
She's a subscriber too. She's subscribed to the podcast, so she's going to hear this.
Good. Thank you for your trademark help.
Yeah, no, I need to do that for this podcast.
I know, right? Yeah, it's important.
It is. So, I know I need to do it.
But our lawyer helped us get everything in order, and now our agreement makes sense. We had a very interesting conversation about succession planning and that kind of thing a couple of years ago. So the three partners, there was some dark conversations. What are you going to do if someone dies and all? It was very amusing, but really dark.
Yeah, it doesn't sound amusing. But,
we had a lot of fun, but it was
you clearly have a dark sense of humor.
Yeah, a little bit.
So how long has Pixel Strike been around?
So we started in 2015, so we're going to be 9 years old in October.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You got the Big 10 coming up next year.
I know. Someone else pointed that out to me the other day, and I'm like, we have to do something, I think, to acknowledge that. So that's coming.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, but it's confusing to me because the technical tenure of my business is this August. We've only been in the video department for a couple of years, but it's the same, federal ID number. So I consider it a 10-year anniversary of the business.
It's the same ID number, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
The same business.
But it's weird because that means August of this year we will have only done 9 years. We'll be starting our 10th year. So it's weird. I get confused. It's are we 10 years old? because we're really only 9 years old because we started in October of 2014 or August of 2014. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's easier to tell people we're a 10-year-old company.
Yeah,
and it's like better marketing.
Yeah.
Honestly, we'll be a 10-year-old company for the next couple of years. Like that's all. I'm not going to say we're an 11-year-old company. I'm going to say we're a 10-year-old company. Yeah, that's exciting. And yeah, how many employees do you guys have now?
Well, it's really just Louise and I. We have a web developer.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Web developer. Right. That's what I was thinking of, was your web developer. And he doesn't work in the office.
No, he lives in Connecticut, actually,
cool.
Which is where Louise is from originally, but they didn't know each other in
Just
Connecticut.
coincidence.
Just total coincidence.
And it's good that he's on the same time zone as you, I assume.
It is very helpful.
Yeah.
He has another day job, too. He's a middle school teacher.
Whoa.
Which he has the patience of a saint.
Whoa.
Yes, he also has 4 children of his own who are reaching their teen years now. So I don't know how this man has time for anything.
What he probably
coaches baseball too. Like, I don't know how he's doing it.
He's probably like, give me projects so that I can be like, sorry family, I have to go lock myself away in a room now.
I suspect that might happen. Yeah. Or he's using, what's that thing on Harry Potter, the time thing? Yeah. He's messing with the time space continuum. That's got to be.
Have you seen that show, that Broadway show, Harry Potter?
I haven't seen it on Broadway. No.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was on Broadway.
Yeah,
of course it's on Broadway.
Well, I think they're making a movie out of that script, but I believe it's called The Cursed Child. That's not one of the books, right?
Yeah, I think it is. Maybe.
That's not one of the
It's a theme. It's either a book or a chapter.
No. It's The Cursed Child, and it's about Harry's son Severus and Draco's son. Draco. No, I don't know what Draco's son's name is, but I think it might be Albus. No. Anyway.
Interesting.
And it's about their relationship.
So it's like the follow-up story.
What made me think of it is a big part of the plot is time travel. Oh. And so they actually go back to the 4th book during the, what is it, the...
like competition?
Yeah, the competition, the cup. Yeah. So there's like a scene where... Like you see, it's really the way that they stage it. I saw it in London actually. I was traveling overseas and I had a full Saturday off. And back then, the show was in 2 parts.
Yeah.
So you had to see a matinee part 1 and then an evening show part 2.
What?
Which only happened on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Oh wow!
Otherwise, you'd have to see Thursday and Friday night
to
see part. You know what I mean?
No.
So like I got there. I got there really early. Stood in line for a few hours beforehand, and I ended up. They like would go down the line, but we have 1 seat available. This is how much it costs, and like they came up to me and this woman who I'd been beside, and we hadn't talked at all. And they're like, we have 2 seats available. They're like, it was like 250 pounds a piece. No, it was 125 a piece and ended up being 250 total. And we kind of looked at each other. We're like, okay, I guess we're hanging out today.
I guess we're becoming friends today.
Yeah, and it was very funny. She was sweet. She was like she was this older woman who was a librarian, and she looked literally like if you put an librarian into AI, like her image would pop up.
I love that. Librarians are so cool.
She was so sweet. She was just like reading her book. I like went away in between acts, and I came back for act 2. She's just sitting there reading her little book. She's so
That's
sweet.
Amazing.
But there's a scene where they're at the competition, and the way that it was staged was you were like behind the competition, so most of the actors' backs are to the audience, and they're like watching it like upstage, and like there was so much magic that happened on stage. Like it was crazy, like true like magic, the way that Chris Angel or something like that would do. And it was just a really, really special production. And then I believe when they brought it to New York, it maybe ran as 2 parts for like a couple of months, and then they cut it down into a single part.
Yeah.
And when you left the theater for the first one, they handed out these pens that said "Keep the Secrets," and it had this cool design on it.
Ooh.
It was so fucking cool, man.
That's rad.
I understand why they changed it to 1 because of the attention span, and it's also hard to commit. It's hard to commit to. Because people go to New York and you're like, I want to see like 3 or 4 shows.
Yeah, I can't even commit to a sandwich, so.
What sandwiches are so delicious?
It's tomorrow at lunch. I don't know yet. I don't know. I can't be bothered. Like, how can I know if I have time for 2 nights of musicals?
Have you seen any Broadway shows?
I've seen Wicked a couple of times
in New York.
What else? I haven't seen many like in New York, but I've seen a lot of shows here, like at Altria. Book of Mormon, which is hilarious. Avenue Q, also hilarious.
Yeah.
yeah, saw Wicked here as well. Saw The Lion King, like kind of seen, Beauty and the Beast. When I was in middle school playing the clarinet, we had like a little parade where we opened the show for Beauty and the Beast on Broadway that had come to Portland.
Oh, cool.
And we did a little parade, and they gave us all free tickets to the show to see it, like, so amazing. That was amazing. Yeah. It was like my first like Broadway experience. It was magical.
My first professional musical, I played Gaston in Beauty and the Beast.
Really?
At Virginia Rep.
Right and on.
Then 11 years later, I played the Beast in basically the same production. It was the same director.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the scene in the musical, like, when he's transforming into the prince. Yeah. Amazing, like floating in the air, and it's just we did that. We did floating. Like, how did they do that? Like, it was so amazing.
I would have to go, but when she's singing "Home," I would get harnessed up.
Yeah,
and then I'd go out there and
harness, all the special effects,
and it was scary.
Yeah.
But fun.
A lot of trust we're putting in those devices. And
and I like basically specifically requested. I was like, I want this guy to be the one who's pulling it up. I trust him. He likes me.
He's not gonna drop me.
Yeah. His name was Matt too, actually. So that actually worked out. So what is your relationship with like your creative side outside of work?
Oh.
How do you express yourself? I know one thing for sure.
I don't do graphic designing for fun.
Sure.
Usually.
I don't really do video for fun.
Yeah, I'm like, it's kind of I do it during the day. I'll do it as a favor sometimes for close friends, but that still happens during the day job, the daytime hours.
Sure.
So, I like to do drawing, comics, things like that.
You still draw comics?
A little bit. I recently learned calligraphy.
Okay,
so I can do calligraphy with like lovely like old school fountain pens that you dip into the ink, and it's so satisfying. I do stained glass as well. I make stained glass. And,
how do you make stained glass? What is that process?
You cut a lot of pieces of glass, and then you foil them on the edges, and then you solder them all together. It's like a whole thing. So it's it's a lot of fun. I have the benefit, because I can do the graphic design and have all the software programs, I can create my own patterns for stained glass.
Right.
Because I know how glass is going to cut too, so I'm not going to make any shapes that are going to be kind of too challenging or too like impossible to do. I've made a fair amount of stained glass. What else do I sew? I also sew, and I cook and bake a lot. A lot.
Have you heard anything?
Not this year. I don't think I'm gonna get it this year.
Would you get a rejection?
No, they don't. They have so many people who send in tapes. They don't have time to tell you no.
We cue in our audience. What are we talking about?
So there is, the Great British Baking Show, but there is also now the Great American Baking Show on Roku, and it is with Paul Hollywood. They film it in the UK in the tent. And there's an American host, and it's for Americans, the Great American Baking Show. So
I don't think I realized that it was in the tent with Paul Hollywood.
It's in the tent. Yeah, that's like, I probably wouldn't really care very much if it wasn't. I just want to give Paul Hollywood some bread. Like, that's all I care about.
Is that a euphemism?
No, like actual bread. No euphemisms. I would also like to drive some of his vehicles. He has a massive car collection.
Okay, so. No, that one doesn't really work as a euphemism as well.
Not so much, yeah. Take that one for a ride.
Really want to drive your vehicles.
But yeah, I do a lot of baking and creative baking as well. So.
What's like the most like out of the box creative thing you've done?
Oh.
Baking wise.
I don't know that I've gotten too out of the box.
Have you done anything that like they do on the competition?
Oh yeah. I do a lot of a lot of cakes, a lot of cupcakes. I do eclairs. I do like.
Do you ever
cookies,
do like
biscuits?
Like when they're like you have to create a landscape?
I don't do like the what do they call them, the illusion cakes.
Yeah.
I haven't done any illusion cakes. I have a good friend though in Maryland who's been starting to create those, and so we share notes and things.
Okay. We should come up with an excuse.
It'd be cool to like come up with something fabulous for BNI, right? Like a BNI
for
themed. I don't know how that would look creatively, but maybe something more exciting. We need a theme.
You can involve the Dr. Joe's wife. Get some macaroons in there.
Yeah, her macarons are amazing.
How do you pronounce that?
Macarons.
Yeah. Macaroons are the coconut ones.
Macaroons are the coconut ones. Macron is the former president of France, or maybe he's still the president. I don't know.
he might. I feel like he
Emmanuel
got
Macron.
voted out, but maybe not.
Macron, macaroon, and macaron. 3 very distinct things.
On the American baking show, do they, like, by being there, do they absorb some of, like, the sweetness and, like, the earnestness that the British people have?
Yes,
and,
it is
like,
very much the same energy. Yeah, because I always thought, you know, the American baking
Americans
shows,
are
they're
not
so
like that.
cutthroat, they're so
Yeah.
competitive with each other.
just in general as people, I feel
It's
like
not very
they're like
nice
that.
to watch. Yeah, but that's which is why I love the British one, because they're just so, like, they help each other and
Yeah.
there's a lot of camaraderie, and the American one is just like that too, from the
Do you
2
watch
seasons I've seen. Or
Top
the one.
Chef?
I've seen it. Yeah.
That's one thing I like about Top Chef. Is like, I mean, it is I would argue that it is like, if not the most, it's top 3 most prolific television competitions
Easily.
for cooks.
Yeah, easily.
And it's, interestingly, one of the only ones that's not on the Food Network. And I think that
Oh.
kind of is that's not the reason for its success, but I think that is part of the reason why it is, like, so elevated.
Interesting.
I think the reason for its success is the host. It's Padma, it's Tom, and Gail.
Yeah, I think the caliber of people that they have on that show is amazing.
And they get phenomenal chefs too.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's one of the things that we like about it so much. And I should also just say that Kristen is the new host. Do you know Kristen? She is, I believe, Korean. She won several years ago, and have you watched in recent years they do Last Chance Kitchen?
Oh yeah.
So she was the first one and maybe the only one who came back from Last Chance Kitchen to win the whole competition.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Now she's okay.
She
yes.
took Padma's place because
That is
Padma left.
fantastic.
Padma
Yeah.
left after year 20, so this is year 21.
Wow.
I've been watching it since the very beginning. I got Allison into it during COVID because it was one of those perfect shows to just binge during COVID.
Easily.
But it's like everyone is so nice, and you know they're always helping each other out. But it is like fiercely competitive, and I think one of the reasons is I just think that there's a specific culture with chef culture. Mm-hmm. And I think that and granted, if they have 20 contestants, you might have 1 or 2 assholes, but not recently. I think they realize that doesn't like do well for them. That's not what people tune in to see. It's not Vanderpump Rules.
Right.
They're not there for the internal drama.
Right.
But I think they've just gotten really good at like casting and like just bringing in people that are just so talented and kind and are there for the right reasons and have good stories. And do you have any, what are your ambitions for the future, for whether it's Pixel Strike or whether it's a dream of something beyond Pixel Strike? Like maybe, like, I'll just start by saying that I would love for the video department to continue and, like, you know, be like a general leader, but I would like to do other things, like have an education company or something in that world. Like I said, a kids show. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts. I would like to go to graduate school, like just for funsies, really. There's a Basel School of Art and Design.
You could teach it.
I don't know, but man, that'd be a cool degree. So yeah, it's on the border of like France and Switzerland or something, and it's it's Germany and Switzerland because they speak German and Swiss there. Yeah, so it's it's an amazing program, and it's a lot of sort of using design to create social good, basically. So, using our powers for good instead of evil. Not that a lot of us are using them for evil, but, you know, there are certainly annoying patterns on the user experience side of things on the web. There's some very annoying things we could dig in. That's a whole conversation there, but...
Mark Goad is pretty evil, I think.
No, never.
The good life.
The good life. The sinister
the evil life.
Yes, the evil life. Now there's a brand I should create. Like, oh my gosh,
you should.
I should create like the sub brand, like
with
the opposite of the. Oh my gosh.
Just as a joke, that'd be really
fire
funny.
And brimstone. Oh, that'd be so nice. Maybe a little skateboard.
Instead of the sun, it's fire.
Instead of the sunshine, fire, and then instead of the paper airplane, like a skateboard or something like, you know, menacing.
Bart Simpson. Is
Yeah.
that what that influence is? A skateboard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, what's a good mode of transportation for someone who's getting into trouble? Yeah.
A bird scooter.
Yeah, all scooters. And so graduate school is kind of just a pie in the sky thing. But, yeah, I would like to get Pixel Strike to a place where I can step away from being in the weeds of the day to day and do some more bigger picture things. I'm really interested in like design justice as a way of furthering like social issues and helping people live better lives.
Can you talk to me about that a little bit? What does that look like?
I don't know.
Oh.
I'm still in the brainstorming phase. Yeah.
Okay.
Reading a lot of books and things right now and just kind of trying to figure out a good way to have a bigger impact, more positive impact in the world. I would like to leave this place leave it in better shape than what I found it. And, so I think we all have a lot of work to do for that to happen. But it might be education. It might even be a completely different career. I'm not even sure. Might get a psychology degree. Who knows? It's kind of up in the air at the moment. I've been talking with my personal partner, about kind of what we want to build and kind of going in that direction of like, just kind of helping people get a better grasp on emotional regulation and their brains and kind of live better lives that way. So because you don't have to believe everything you think, and I think a lot of people don't realize that, and it's a very powerful thing to realize and live. So your thoughts are not reality necessarily. Exactly. Yeah,
they're not always the truth.
No, they're usually not the truth. They're usually just filthy lies. Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, maybe we'll have you on again down the line to talk more about the design. So, what did you say?
Design justice.
Design justice. That's what I thought. Yeah. Also, fun name for like a kid.
Fun name.
Design justice.
Design justice. Some weird Gwyneth Paltrow child or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Huh. One of the things that you and I both share, and this is something I've talked about on the pod before, the dirty word, networking. Dun, dun, dun. So sort of open the pod talking about that we're both in the same networking group without, painting a bad picture. What was your experience like before you came to the BNI All-Stars?
Yeah, so networking before when I got to Richmond and was at La Diff, it was sort of some occasional events and soirees and schmoozing and just kind of meeting people and kind of maybe starting to plant those seeds of early relationships. But it wasn't anything that I was committed to. I wasn't doing anything on a regular basis or consistently. And then I was in 212 for a while. The Profit Producers, that's the name of the team. So they were really nice folks, but it was definitely skewed like older white male. So I didn't really feel like it was a very diverse group of people. A lot of people in the trades, but they aren't always the best people to give referrals for my kind of business. So didn't have a ton of success there, but did meet another web developer who we partner with now. We do still work together. He's wonderful. So yeah, it was good, but it's like a weekly, it's a weekly commitment. You got to spend time doing it. And I always felt bad because I didn't really feel great about referring to everybody in the team. Like there were some folks and I'm like, I'm not sure that I want my name attached to like what they're producing, which is fine. And then Mark Goad invited me to visit the current BNI team.
The Evil Life, Mark Goad.
The Evil Life.
Just to be clear, Mark Goad is the nicest man in the world.
He's the kindest, sweetest person ever.
He's also a good person to bring up in this conversation because he's the king of networking.
Yeah, he really is. And so he invited me to sub for him. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. That sounds fine. And this room full of people was just, like, blew me away.
Yeah.
Everyone's just so friendly and down to earth, and it is a much more diverse crowd, and
getting increasingly more diverse.
Which is really nice. So I mean, now my experience with it's a little bit more of a commitment than 212 was, because there's actual accountability in BNI. Like there's tracking of numbers and things. We want to be able to say like, look how much progress we've made.
And the meeting's 30 minutes longer.
The meeting is 30 minutes longer. So yeah, it's a lot more of a commitment. And then, we're on the leadership team, so that's more of a commitment as well. Lots more things to do. But I really like it. It doesn't feel like work to me. Yeah. Networking has never felt like work to me. But it's been so important. And there are people that I met 15 years ago that are still bringing us business and still, recommending me for things. And, that seed was planted a long, long time ago, and they will come to bloom eventually. Like, it's not about what you can get out of the relationship, really, but it's just those things tend to happen naturally along the way. So
does it come easy to you, networking?
It does now. Yeah. I kind of see it as like dating. So,
Expand.
So,
well, when we do the speed round,
as a young single woman in my heyday, did a lot of dating, a lot of first dates with people. So annoying. But I feel like networking, like when you're meeting someone new, it's basically a first date, just without the romantic implications and pressure, right? It's just like, all right, well, who are you? Like, let's get down to it. Like, what? Tell me more. So I've really enjoyed that. But and it's more fun than dating too, because dating is obnoxious. But I really like it. Yeah.
So the reason I was in London to see that show was I did this, I won't go into it, I think I've talked about it before on the pod, but I went on this world tour with this woman, Eva DeVirgilis. She hired me to video her giving some talks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was 2017. And then in 2020 or 2021, she introduced me to that environmental communications firm that I often talk about.
Yeah.
And they're like one of my top 2 biggest clients, basically.
All these connections that you make, like you just got to keep watering them, you know, and they'll come up eventually. I mean, Southern States is one of our clients now because I used to work for them and I have relationships with the people in that company. So that's a great benefit there. When I first moved to Richmond, I found a freelance gig on Craigslist, the International Microwave Power Institute. Bunch of nerds about microwave power. I love them so much, but their executive director, she hired me and she's been my client all these years. I just finished a bunch of stuff for their annual conference last week. So, and she's still sending us referrals as well. And like when Joe and I started the business, Molly like sat down with us and helped us figure out, okay, here's the paperwork, like kind of here's what you need to do. She kind of had like an unofficial Brandy Brown kind of advice for us, but not legal advice. She's not a lawyer, but Brandy Brown's a lawyer. Hire a lawyer. So,
yeah, definitely hire a lawyer.
Yeah, you don't want like legal advice from someone who's not a lawyer, but she helped us kind of get along the way, get on our path to create the business, because she's created associations and businesses of her own too. So
this is the executive director of the microwave company.
Yeah, IMPI, the microwave power people. So
cool.
Yeah.
And like, what percentage of your company is like, because mine is like anywhere between like a quarter to a third of my revenue is direct. I can directly tie it to networking, like specifically BNI.
I'd say easily 80%, 90%.
Wow.
Most of it is networking, referrals, and word of mouth. Yeah, we don't advertise.
What percentage is BNI?
At least 60, probably.
Really?
Maybe 50 or 60.
Wow,
yeah,
that's awesome.
It's we're members of the Chesterfield Chamber of Commerce as well, and Louise is in the Young Professionals Committee there. I'm on the DE&I committee there, so we're trying to meet lots and lots of people that way. But easily at least half of it's coming from BNI right now.
Amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Easily.
Yeah. Yeah, you are in a good seat for BNI.
Yeah.
Like, that is a good one, because everyone needs a website.
Yeah, and if they don't, they do. If they don't think they do, they actually do. So.
And everyone needs branding work, and like pretty much every company needs at least think about rebranding every 5 to 10 years. Like, at least consider it.
At least refreshing.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a successful, if you see your growth is just going up and up and up, don't. What is it? Don't fix it if it ain't broke.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, if you are, I mean, that was one of the reasons we changed the video department. It was like, we're trying to, like, we've experienced growth, but we're not like to the point where it's like, yeah, we're good, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, if your business, it's at least something to consider.
Certainly.
As you are trying to figure out how to grow your business.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting you change your name or anything, but a logo change can go a long way.
Our logo is actually the second logo that we've had.
For Pixel Strike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long was it before you changed it? Like how?
Probably about 8 months.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone made a comment about the logo, and I could not unsee it, so that had to change immediately. And then now it's way more, it's like the abstract S with the pixels and the dots. So I think it's a little more timeless anyway.
Yeah, your logo's great. I went from, my previous company was called Creative Awareness, because what I had sought out to do was to be more of like, almost like a satellite production house. Like it was like, we need a graphic designer, we need, like, not like a full stop marketing company, because I did not want to do that, but more like, hey, we need some people.
Yeah.
Like that was the idea of like creative being like people who are creatives.
Yeah.
And very quickly, like, you would have to be like a networking guru to establish something like that.
Yeah.
And I learned pretty quickly that that wasn't going to be my niche. And I wanted to change the name forever.
Yeah.
And then eventually B&I had a lot to do with how the name came about, because like I discovered that like where my niche is specifically helping creative companies that don't have their own video department.
Right. Yeah.
It seems like so like...
It's very apt. The video department.
Yes.
We need a video department. I know. Call Matt.
Yes.
Matt Bolson.
It almost seems like sometimes I think is it too on the nose, but like I'm a very literal guy.
On the nose is good though for a business name. Like you need something to be memorable. Yeah. It's got to say, or at least give some indication of what you do. Yes. Like that's helpful for it being memorable. And,
yes.
Yeah.
And I think it matches the style that I deliver, which is like, I'm not going to do something that you've never seen before, but I'm going to do something that's classic and looks like what you wanted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if there is something that you've never seen before and you can articulate that to me, I can do that.
You can communicate it.
Yeah,
you can make that happen.
Absolutely. Like that. I consider that one of my specialties. But when you're working with a business owner, like I'm working with a paint company right now, and like they're creative in lots of different ways, but that's not their thing.
That's not, yeah.
So it's just a different job. Are you primarily working with business owners?
Yeah, mostly business owners, some marketing departments. Yeah. So Southern States were sort of an extension of their existing team. Right. But primarily business owners, or at least like the marketing directors of very small companies. So
I'm going to ask the sort of last question of the pod in two different ways, like for two different audiences.
Okay.
So the general question is, what advice would you give, right? So I'll ask it two different ways, and I'll let you decide which order.
Okay.
The one is, if you're a young, even coming out of high school, interested in going into graphic design, or you're in a graphic design program and you're coming out of college and want to work in the field, what is your advice for that person? And then the other branch of that question is, what is your advice for other businesses that are either similar to yours or maybe like mine, that are in the marketing world? Like what can you do to stay on top of your game?
That is a good question. I'm gonna
go.
So I think for young artists, young graphic designers, maybe coming out of college or high school, expect to work hard and a lot. Most of your job is about communication, verbally as well, and written. It's not just visual. You need to be able to communicate with people through multiple mediums, and effectively. So being a good communicator is really important. So it's a lot of work. Like you're gonna have to do a lot of grunt work and persevere. But
what does grunt work look like?
Photoshopping people into a group picture that weren't there before.
Photoshopping molding into
photoshopping edge molding.
That sounds
kind of all like the weird stuff.
It makes my skin crawl.
Make the social graphics in Canva or like whatever. Yeah. Just do the the less exciting stuff. There's a lot of that to do, but when you do a lot comes with experience, and as you do a lot of the grunt work, you start to kind of break out of your box a lot more, and then you can start really getting creative, which is fun. But persevere, be kind, and be brave.
Can you go into the communication bit a little bit more?
Oh, it's all about communication.
Talk about that.
If you can't have a conversation with somebody, you're never going to be able to tease out of them what they're looking for. And you're never going to be able to solve that problem if you don't have a complete understanding of what that problem looks like from as many angles as you can get. Yeah.
Did you take any communication courses in college or anything like that? How did you become such a good communicator?
Yeah, I don't know how I don't know how I did it. No, I did not take any communication courses. I'm just brilliant. No, my mother is very good with language and words, and so like words and vocabulary was always like really hardcore part of my upbringing. Sure. Yeah, so we've always like we're all kind of wordsmiths in my family in a way.
You're a reader.
Yeah, I did a lot of reading. Now I'm more like audiobook, but sure. Yeah, I do a lot of reading and loved reading back then too, especially.
Yeah, I think that's sort of counterintuitive, but I think being a good reader can actually make you a better communicator.
It really does. Verbally. It does. And, like even asking questions, like learning to ask questions. I learned a lot at Capital One about communication, actually. I will say that because, they'll say like, ask why 5 times, So if someone says, well, I don't like that. Well, why? And get them, they'll tell you a thing and then you ask them, well, why is that? And you just kind of keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And eventually you get to like the root of the problem or what they're saying or what they're trying to communicate. I've had people say like, I don't like that design at all. Ugh. Okay, well, talk to me about that. Like, what is it that's not landing for you? And it turns out after a long conversation, they just didn't like the color of the one thing. The whole design is fine. Just change that and it's great. But people don't communicate. Other people don't communicate that as clearly. People don't often have design language, so they don't know what they're trying to convey. So you have to ask a lot of questions to get that out of their brains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm having PTSD as you're talking about all this.
Lovely. Glad I could help.
So what about the business owners?
Yeah. So I guess your question is sort of how can they stay on top of...
Well, you've been very successful. You're doing it seems like you're growing at the pace that you want to grow.
Yeah.
Like, you're not trying to build the next Martin agency, huge 100-person staff, or probably more than that.
Yeah.
So, and I basically, I'm going to keep that in because that was good.
I think you should.
I mean, I'm basically in the same way. Like, I would like to have a little bit of growth, but, I'm not looking to have a team of more than 3 to 5 or something like that anytime in the near future, if ever. So, what's your secret?
What's my secret?
How do you stay so fresh?
Maybe it's Maybelline. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez. What is my secret? I think
also communication. You're
I was going to say networking is
Louise
a really big piece
too.
of it. It's all about your relationships, especially in a town like Richmond. It's all about your connections with other people and who you know. Your reputation goes a long way. Never burn any bridges. Try not to. Some bridges are worth burning, but try not to burn them. And just kind of keep an eye on the prize. Like, what is the mission? What's the thing that you're driving towards? Sort of, what's your internal facing mission statement, right? And just keep going that way. Your decisions should all be based around like furthering that mission.
What's yours?
Oh, we don't have one. I can't remember. We've written it down.
And scene.
No, we actually did write one a couple years ago. Like we rewrote it. I think trying to remember what it was. It was... Yeah, see, I don't do as I say, not as I do.
Well, even the gist, I mean, you're living it. I'm sure you don't need to...
Yeah, I mean, we're creative. Yourself. We're creatives, and we help people we want to help people, like, have a good presence, have a good... Put their best foot forward and be able to grow their businesses with the assets that they need to do that well and look good and make sense while they're doing it, because design isn't just about looking pretty. It's got to make sense and be functional. So... we really just want to help people be the best they can be. I want to help people get rich, basically, so that, they can do what they love instead of having to be worker bees forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good mission.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to shout out?
Louise is amazing.
Yeah, Louise is great.
Louise is the best partner anyone could ask for. What else do I want to shout out? Yeah, that's about it.
Anything you're excited about this summer?
It's going to be kind of a mellow summer for me, I think. Yeah.
That can be exciting, though, after a busy spring.
Yeah, it's been a busy spring. So summer, I think we're trying to keep things in the pipeline and stay busy, but I don't have any vacations planned or anything. I just took a trip in February.
Right,
so,
a big one, yeah.
Which was amazing. But
and potentially looking at real estate at some point in the future too, right?
Yeah, one day.
Yeah,
one day.
Yeah.
Lofty goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing too exciting coming up. But just gonna keep on
keep grinding,
keep
man.
on trucking along and keep on kind of planning and trying to figure out what that long-term vision is, like, for myself, for my path, my career. Because it may or may not involve Pixel Strike. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's awesome for people to hear, too. Like, you know, the audience will empathize with the idea of, like, success and now what's next.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And, like, also trying to maintain that success at the same time while you're kind of looking for what's next. Yeah. And what's next might not be for 5-10 years, who knows, but like it's fun to think about.
It's very much a cottywomple, just kind of going vaguely in a general direction.
So, a what?
A cottywomple. I love that word.
Is that a real word?
It is a real word. How
do you spell it?
CODDYWOMBLE. Womple? Oh, PLE, maybe?
Wow.
Yeah, Womple. W-O-M-P-L-E.
Right.
I don't know.
Look it up.
Look it up. Cottywomple. Yes.
This podcast has been a cottywomple.
Yeah. Just charging ahead vaguely in a general direction. That
is this podcast.
And I love that. I love that. I love a good cottywomple. So
awesome. Well, Juliette, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.